the heist that was never meant to succeed. A small-time criminal plans a sloppy bank robbery just to get arrested and escape a powerful enemy hunting him outside. But the robbery goes too well, trapping him in a situation far bigger than he planned. Evan Cole never planned to get away with the robbery. In fact, failure was the goal. For 3 weeks, he'd been sleeping in abandoned buildings, changing phones daily, watching the same black SUV circle his life like a vulture. The men inside it weren't police. They didn't want prison. They wanted him erased. Evan knew only one place on earth where they wouldn't touch him, inside a jail cell. That's why, on a quiet Tuesday morning, Evan walked into the Riverside Federal Bank wearing no mask, no gloves, and holding an old revolver that hadn't been fired in years. He chose a small branch, no security guards, predictable police response. He rehearsed his lines carefully, enough threat to get arrested, not enough to get shot. "Everyone stay calm," he said, voice shaking just enough to seem real. "I don't want to hurt anyone." The tellers froze. A silent alarm was triggered. Everything was going exactly as planned. Until the vault door opened. Inside wasn't stacks of cash like Evan expected. It was far more than that, unmarked bills packed tighter than any normal reserve. Way too much money for a branch this size. Evan felt his stomach drop. This wasn't a bank's money. And suddenly, the black SUV outside made sense. Evan hadn't always been a criminal. He used to be an accountant, one who discovered numbers that didn't add up. Offshore accounts, shell companies, and quiet transfers tied to powerful people who never appeared on paper. When he asked questions, people started disappearing. Then his name showed up on a list he was never meant to see. That's when he ran. Now, standing in the vault, Evan realized this bank wasn't just holding deposits, it was laundering money. Dirty money. The kind that bought silence, influence, and murder. A teller whispered, "Sir, you need to leave. Now." Police sirens wailed in the distance. Evan's original plan was simple: wait, surrender, survive. But if he stayed, these people would make sure he never reached court. So Evan did the one thing he never planned for. He took the money. He stuffed as much as he could into a duffel bag and walked out calmly, just as police cruisers skidded into the parking lot. No shots fired. No chase. The officers assumed it was a terrified man making a lucky escape. But the real danger wasn't the police. By nightfall, Evan's face was everywhere. News anchors called it an amateur robbery. Social media mocked him. Meanwhile, powerful men were panicking. Because Evan hadn't just stolen money. He'd stolen leverage. Evan didn't run far. He hid in plain sight, using public transit, cheap motels, and burner phones. Inside the duffel bag wasn't just cash, there were ledgers, drives, handwritten codes. Proof. That night, his phone buzzed. "Unknown number, you took something that doesn't belong to you." Evan replied with shaking hands, "So did you." The next message came instantly. "Return it, and we forget you exist." Evan smiled for the first time in months. Instead of responding, he scheduled emails. Hundreds of them. Journalists. Federal agencies. Financial watchdogs. Each message contained fragments of what he'd taken, enough to raise alarms but not enough to burn everything at once. Then Evan did something no one expected. He walked into another police station and turned himself in. This time, he told them everything. The money. The bank. The names. Within 48 hours, arrests began, not of Evan, but of executives, politicians, and financiers. The same people who thought prison was something that happened to others. Evan was placed into protective custody. The men in the black SUV never came for him. They couldn't. Months later, the case was called one of the largest financial crime exposures in the country's history. News articles referred to Evan as the accidental whistleblower. Commentators debated whether he was a hero or a criminal. Evan didn't care. From his small prison cell, he watched the world finally see what he'd known all along, that the most dangerous thieves don't wear masks, and the safest place from them is sometimes behind bars. Evan served 3 years for the robbery. The men he exposed served decades. And the bank? It closed quietly, its doors locked forever. The perfect crime wasn't the heist. It was surviving it. Years later, people still argue about what really happened to Evan Cole. Official records say he served his sentence and was released quietly under a new identity. No interviews. No photos. No trace. But some investigators swear the story didn't end that clean. They say the evidence Evan promised to release, some of it never surfaced. Accounts went dark. Files vanished. And the men he exposed? A few of them died before ever testifying. Others walked free. Some believe Evan didn't survive prison at all, that the deal was never real and his release was just another story written for the public. Because when powerful people lose money, they don't forget, and they don't forgive. So the question is this: did Evan outsmart them by hiding behind bars, or did he simply delay the inevitable? If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Because the darkest crimes aren't the ones you see on the news, they're the ones that end without answers.